All right, so Mark, what's going on in the Astro world right now?
I'm so glad you asked that, Kate, because it is so complicated right now. A lot of times I like to work with a unified theme of what can I say to them that's the most helpful to the most people at this time. And what I'm really aware of is I look at the planets. A lot of the inner planets are in Aries and Taurus and all that. So of course, if that's strong in your chart, be sun, moon, or rising, you're born in the springtime, there's going to be lots and lots and lots that specifically will be speaking to you right now. But the inner planets move really quickly, so to identify a unified theme, it's not really the goal right now. It would be if you got your personal reading from me and or someone else, and you because right now there's a lot of direction that can be had. You know, we're not void of course. We're not without choices. It's just that the choices that are on the table right now are very instantaneous. They're very opportune, and it's important to identify that. So as an overview, the first thing I would say is go for your personal excellence. Rather than resisting this time now, this time is a time of flux and change. So that means that this isn't the time to react, it's the time to act and become more aware of what is your personal talent right now. You know, that Aries energy is, what is it that is yourself, that what do you bring to the table? So this can be in the world of art, can be, you know, cinematography, it can be astrology, it can be gardening, it can be creating the most amazing new structure. I've seen a lot of particularly Taurus-based people right now that are like, yeah, look at this fundamental, really amazing garden bed I did, and that sort of thing. And that is where your satisfaction needs to lie. You know, not so much that you're going to change the world this week or this month. The world is changing, and and we're not necessarily in a position where we can direct the flow, but we are in a position where we can put out our sails and catch the wind and really go to a dynamic new place. And so that's kind of an overview. Again, it's important to have your personal reading because it's going to be very different for everybody right now. And you know, it's person specific and it's aspect specific and that sort of thing. Avoid the whole sign astrology approach, which is that, oh, this thing is in this sign and so therefore it means this thing. It's like that could be really, really misleading right now. It's much more important to go to a place of like a bigger context, a bigger point of view. So with that in mind, let's look at the outer planets right now. So the inner planets, the personal planets, Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, have to do with our personal initiative, our drive, our romances, our social life, our mind, our communication, all these things, and the ever-changing kaleidoscope of feelings and opportunities. Now, the outer planets, Jupiter and Saturn are right in the middle, and you know they're coming up to almost going to be in square, but then they're not. So they're not really something I can identify and give you a firm, you know, one size fits all about. So we're setting that aside for the moment. And then the other planets are the ones that are not visible to our naked eye: Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And Pluto is actually some astrophysicists, you know, the same people who are very determined that even though 97% of the universe is mysterious and dark matter and unknown, but they sure decided that astrology couldn't possibly work. But these same people have decided to Some of them are re-looking at Pluto, and Pluto is, it's tiny and it's at the end of our solar system, but what happened was with the advent of the Hubble telescope and other means, Voyager 1 and 2 and so forth, what happened is they're detecting other planets outside of the orbit of Pluto that are still part of our solar system, including Eris, the goddess of discord, which was originally named Xena, but they wouldn't let it slide. They're like, no, you have to have a traditional goddess name, not a new goddess character name. And other planets that exist and are worthy of our looking at, but they're very long cycle and very tiny, and so Eris is actually really affecting things right now, and the planet of discord and transformative changes, is very active, but that's something that we won't be going into in terms of individual horoscopes so much, but Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune. So Pluto, tiny planet, but makes a big punch. Pluto was discovered at the same time that the stock market crashed. Think of plutocrats and plutocracy, and then it's been zipping very, very slowly through the signs. It's exactly the same place it was at the beginning of the American Revolution. Pluto in early Aquarius. Pluto in Aquarius made big changes in terms of revolutions on this planet, in terms of the American and French Revolution, and in terms of the discovery of electricity. Now, at that time, Pluto was also, along with Pluto, there was the planet Uranus, which is just not Uranus. It just isn't. Anyway, Uranus is has to do with the unforeseen and unexpected, and also governs electricity and everything having to do with AI and having to do with the internet, mass comm, that sort of thing. Uranus is the ruling planet of Aquarius, and so a lot of us are being like, yeah, that's it. This is the age of Aquarius, and then every time something goes into Aquarius, or there's a stellium in Aquarius, like there was a few months ago, people interpret it as the age of Aquarius. Well, ages are a definable and measurable time frame of 2160 years, and we just ain't there yet. We're moving backwards from Pisces, but not in Aquarius yet, nor will that happen in my lifetime. So that's usually when some people turn off my talk, but don't do it, because the best is yet to come. Pluto has entered Aquarius last year, and Pluto has to do with transformation, change, total upheaval, and really stirs things up. So if you haven't noticed, things have been stirred up for about a year and a half now, and society as a whole. And it's not just this country. We might blame it on this or that character, or mostly that same character, but all over the planet we're seeing revolutions going on, and we're seeing changes. By revolutions, I don't necessarily mean armed overthrowing of governments. I mean a revolution in thought, in consciousness, in technology, in the way things happen. And so Pluto in Aquarius is just entered, and probably about another 15 years of it ahead of us. And Pluto has to do with like a real reshuffling and redoing and transformation of the way we see things, the way society works, and the big picture. So yes, very much the Aquarian theme of people, ideals, mass communication, society as a whole, and so forth. And then you have Pluto's most at home in Scorpio. Uranus is most at home in Aquarius, but Uranus has just moved back into Gemini. Now last year, Uranus went into Gemini, Saturn went into Aries, Neptune went into Aries, and then they all backtracked. They all did retrograde, as seen from the Earth. Bear in mind that we are on Earth, so how things appear to us is reality. It doesn't matter about the circles around the sun. It doesn't matter at all. And so the planet Uranus is moved into Gemini, and Gemini has to do with duality. It has to do with like this and that. It has an element of contradiction in there. And I always feel like I see these planets as being living beings. And so I see Uranus, kind of rolling on its side and laughing, because Uranus rolls on its side and spins backwards, contrary to the other planets in the solar system, except for Venus. Venus, which has to do with relationships, is sort of like goes counterclockwise, just almost to like take in energy and almost to balance the rest of the energy in the solar system. I think these are living beings that exemplified by planets. Uranus then is in the sign of duality and mental focus and so forth. And contradiction is the rule of the day. There's Uranus is pretty much ruling this time now. So if a person says, "Oh, it's the age of Aquarius and the age of Uranus," well, that actually is true in a way, but not in the big picture. But in terms of this year, this time, yes. So then, Pluto and Uranus have gone in and out of a trine with each other. Trine is actually very technically it's very favorable, but this favors transformation and upheaval and unforeseen change. That's what flows easily right now. So things are, it's not a time to take anything for granted. And so Pluto trine Uranus goes on all year. You give it a few degrees orb, and it's all of 2026 and most of 2025. And then finally, moves on beyond that point to another picture next year. Neptune is the planet that has to do with dreams, visions, and the more intuitive aspects. And Neptune's been in Pisces, along with Saturn being in Pisces. So there's been a lot of, compassion, a lot of suffering with. But both of them, Saturn and Neptune, have moved into Aries. And in recent talks, Saturn and Neptune conjuncted in Aries, and that's old news now. That was last month and the month before. Saturn's moved on, whole nother complicated picture to talk about there, but personal initiative being very much in play right now. That would be Saturn in Aries. Neptune in Aries, having to do with dreams and visions, and also personal initiative. So Neptune's right in the middle of Uranus and Pluto, and so forming a sextile between them and linking the three outer planets are basically moving together. And they're moving together towards really big movement. The good news is things are not stuck right now. This is the time of greatest change on the planet that we can imagine in our lifetimes. And the time to do what to do right now is not be in the struggle as much as ask yourself, what can I do now that will really be excellent, that will really make a difference? Not necessarily in terms of changing society, because that is something that will happen by virtue of already doing it. When I was 13, I became an astrologer, not because I thought it was a good way to make money or to heal the planet even. I just thought this was what was natural for me. So here's your essay question. First of all, get your personal reading. But regardless of that, ask yourself, what can I do now to be excellent? What can I do to make the best move for myself? And so it's a selfish equation, but the energy will radiate out from yourself towards all the planets, towards all the other people, and that's how we're going to navigate the next step.